Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines of this hour. Trilateral peace talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States have officially begun in Geneva, as confirmed by the head of Ukrainian delegation, Rustem Umerov. The second round of talks between US and Iranian delegations have concluded as the two countries leave the venue at the Omani ambassador's residence in Geneva. Bangladesh's Prime Minister to be Tariq Rahman and lawmakers are sworn into parliament, becoming the first elected president representative since a deadly 2024 uprising. President Donald Trump has said Cuba was a failed nation and called on Havana to make a deal. Washington is in talks with Cuba's highest people just days after he threatened the island's struggling economy with what he described as a virtual oil blockade. New Mexico lawmakers have passed legislation to launch what they said was the first full investigation into what happened at Zorro Ranch, U.S., where the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is accused of trafficking and sexually assaulting girls and women. A bipartisan committee will seek testimony from survivors of alleged sexual abuse at the ranch, located about 30 miles south of Santa Fe. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India-France partnership knows no boundaries as he welcomes French President Emmanuel Macron to Mumbai, India's economic capital. According to official statements, Niger's military leader General Abdurrahmani Tiani and Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has declared a new dynamic in bilateral ties and announced progress on the 4,000 kilometers trans-Saharan gas pipeline linking Nigeria to Algeria via Niger, adding that initial steps on the project will begin after Ramadan. According to the Nigerian military, about 100 U.S. troops have arrived in Nigeria to provide training, technical support, and intelligence sharing in the fight against Islamic militants and other armed groups, with Abuja retaining full command and U.S. forces playing no combat role. The deployment follows eased tensions between U.S. and Nigeria. Now we start this hour with India and France. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said on a post on X that after bilateral talks and press statements at Lok Bhawan in Mumbai, him and French President Emmanuel Macron are on the way to other programs, including the India-France Innovation Forum. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron highlighted the strong collaboration between India and France across several sectors, including aeronautics, defense, and space. He has stressed the importance of technology transfer, noting joint efforts in areas like the Rafale submarines and fifth-generation fighter jet engines. Macron has also shared plans for India's participation in a space summit in France this July and a joint roadmap to address global challenges. He has also announced the inauguration of the India-France Innovation Year, focusing on technology transfer, startups, and investor collaboration. Now we welcome former Ambassador Suresh Goel. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now
Good to see you.
Thank you. Now looking at France and India's collaboration on AI, defense, and lots of things, how exciting is it, and what are you expecting for as a short-term and long-term for both of them?
Well, clearly the meeting today between Prime Minister Modi and President Macron has clearly indicated to my, at least as far as I can think, that India-France relation has gone on to an entirely different plane from where it used to exist earlier, when Prime Minister Modi said in some of the remarks that we are now actually talking about a special global strategic relationship, which is one step further or several steps further from the strategic partnerships that really show the kind of nature that relationship has acquired after the meeting. Now, I would say that it's not just aerospace or artificial intelligence, or if you have to look at the granular picture, the details of different kind of deals or different kind of agreements which you have signed, but it is actually the element of trust, the element of faith that India and France have now with each other. And this relationship transcends not just culture and people, but it really is a declaration of India and France coming together to deal with the changing geopolitics, whether it is in Indo-Pacific or in Europe or wherever else, but that India and France will be working together in dealing with the changed situations. Asuma.
Right. And what how significant is that in defense cooperation, India is set to get or acquire 114 Rafale jets from France, and although not the apparently not the latest of the Rafale jets, but it still is acquiring the third generation. How significant will this be for the defense sector of India, and what do you think would be coming next for this?
I am not a defense specialist, and therefore I will not make any remark on whether we should have gone on the fifth generation or we should not have gone for that generation. But what I would have faith in is what we want to choose, what we want. Obviously, the defense hardware is expensive, so we buy what we actually need, not just because something is the latest or something is just out in the market. So that is one. But I think most important factor for us really is that when we buy hardware like this, we want to acquire the technology to be able to make it within the country. There are very few countries who are prepared to do that, and France is one of them. Therefore, the faith that yes, France is prepared to share technology with us, that France is prepared to let us make an advanced aircraft like Rafale in India is a great deal, really. So I would say that it's an expression of confidence in each other and a long-term partnership with each other.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that, Ambassador Goel. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, according to the Prime Minister's office, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed the visit during a speech at the Conference of Presidents, highlighting the strong alliance between Israel and India. Netanyahu has emphasized the significance of the relationship, noting that Israel enjoys immense popularity in India, a country of 1.5 billion people. Modi's upcoming trip follows his first visit to Israel in 2017, with Netanyahu reciprocating the visit in 2018. Netanyahu had also been planning to visit India, though it has faced multiple delays in recent months. Now, we welcome back Ambassador Suresh Goel. He's a former Indian diplomat, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for staying with us. Can you tell us a little bit about India and Israel's relationship, looking back at their history, and why is there like almost 10 years of gap between Prime Minister Modi's last visit to Israel and his upcoming visit?
I really wouldn't be able to say why so much of gap. But the fact is that the relationship between India and Israel is very comfortable. I don't think in the past we have had any occasion when either side has had a reason to complain or say anything at all about elements in the relationship. So therefore, whether it is 10 years, 5 years, or whatever it is, that is immaterial. India and Israel are very comfortable with each other in the relationship, and there is full understanding of each other's sensitivity on practically every issue between the two countries. what I can say really is that the visit at this time can be very, very significant because uh, uh, the Israel and uh, Israel is basically now looking at the post ceasefire, the post Hamas.
Yes.
I shouldn't be saying post Hamas because Hamas is still there, even though Israel may not want to deal with it. But the fact is that we are looking at the scenario in Gaza Strip after the latest events. And therefore, to see how it is progressing is important. President Trump has announced the Gaza Peace Board initiative. Israel is joining it. The meeting is going to be taking place very soon. I think it will have taken place before the visit by Prime Minister Modi. So to know actually what happened there and what to expect afterwards is important. Therefore, I think in terms of exchanging views on current developments, in terms of Iran is happening, in
Yes.
terms of knowing what Israel's position is on the on Iran conundrum, it's an important time for Prime Minister Modi to meet with Netanyahu and find out their views and to exchange ideas on that.
Yes, 100%. Thank you for emphasizing that in Ambassador Goel. Thank you very much for joining us. Now we move on to Iran. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says progress was made during a second round of indirect nuclear talks with the United States in Geneva, but stressed that an agreement is not imminent. He said that both sides reached an understanding on the main guiding principles of the negotiations, adding that more work remains and the process is still at an early stage. The talks mediated by Oman have now concluded, with both the Iranian and US delegations leaving the Omani embassy where discussions were held. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi was seen returning to his residence in Geneva following the meeting. No details were released on next steps or potential timelines, but officials indicated diplomatic contacts will continue as both sides try to navigate complex nuclear and sanctions issues amid ongoing regional tensions. Now we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, do you think this is a breakthrough that now that they have said that understanding of the main guiding principles have been reached? So do you think this is a breakthrough, or do you think we are still a long way to go?
Well, thanks very much for allowing me to comment on this. No, I don't think it's a breakthrough. The meeting only lasted 4 hours. It took some 2 years to reach an agreement back in 2015 with Iran, which then was voided by the Trump administration. So this is not a breakthrough, but it is an indication that the regime in Iran does not want war, and the U.S. has set the table for war, but is having qualms about actually pulling the trigger and going forward. The wild card here, of course, is the unrest at home in Iran. The killing of thousands in order to quell protests has left the entire country seething. So the Iranian government does not want to have war because it's got its own domestic problems at this time. On the other hand, it has less maneuvering room because it can't show any weakness in regard to its own domestic as well as the international situation. So this is still a very, very tense situation. In order to wage peace, like you wage war, you have to have a strategy, you have to have partners, and you have to have principles. Unfortunately, the United States under President Trump has none of these in regard to Iran. It's approached with two emissaries, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of the president, to make some sort of deal. That's not the way in this world that these international problems are solved. So it's still a very tense time, and one would only hope that we'll be able to delay hostilities long enough so that saner heads on both sides can prevail, and we can get back on a trajectory toward waging peace rather than waging war.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And, do you think that Trump administration is now understanding how difficult it is to come into negotiations when two parties are so hard-headed and also don't necessarily want the same things? I can say the same about Ukraine, Russia, and also Iran and US here. Do you think Trump administration undermined or underestimated such?
Well, I think there's no question that they underestimated the problems, both with Iran, Ukraine, in regard to Gaza. And the chief problem with the Trump administration approach to this is it relies on a domestic real estate paradigm of how you make a deal on a high-rise apartment or a development. And you have two people who head organizations. They come into a room, they talk, they make concessions, and you come out with a deal. That's not the way in which international politics works. You have to have a longer term strategy. It's not a transaction. You have to be able to develop a relationship. I think that the Trump administration is seeing the limits of the transactional approach, but it really does not have in a leader in President Trump who understands any other way to go about it other than the transactional, my way or the highway, and one side wins and one side loses in the negotiation, and then you move on to the next problem. That's not the way in which it works. You have to have your strategy, and most of all, you have to have partners. The idea that the United States of America can have two people who really don't have diplomatic experience in Witkoff and Kushner sit down with the counterparts, make a deal and move on is just a pipe dream. That's not the way in which it works. So we're still in a very difficult period of time. There is some learning going on with the Trump administration about the limits of the approach, but they really don't have an alternative because their leader does not have another paradigm for understanding how international relations works.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Vikri. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Moving on, trilateral peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States have officially begun in Geneva, as confirmed by the head of Ukrainian delegation, Rustem Umerov. The two-day talks, mediated by the U.S., are focused on the key issue of land, with U.S. President Donald Trump urging both Kyiv and Moscow to reach a swift agreement and end the ongoing conflict. Ahead of the negotiations, Russia has launched heavy airstrikes across Ukraine, causing significant damage to the power grid in the southern city of Odessa. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reported that the strikes left tens of thousands of residents without heat and water. Now we welcome back Mr. Raymond Vikri. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vikri, for staying with us. Now looking at this, can we be hopeful about any breakthroughs from these talks?
Well, thanks again for letting me comment on this. We can be hopeful that, as Winston Churchill used to say, people are doing jaw rather than war. On the other hand, the limits of the approach, which we've just talked about, are on display in regard to these talks in regard to Ukraine. There is not a strategy or a long-term approach to Russia and its mindset about expanding the old and recreating the old Russian Empire. Instead, it's looked at as if this is in isolation in some way like a real estate deal, and you can have the parties decide and it will be done. President Putin is not interested in a real estate deal in American terms. He's interested in restoring what he would consider to be Russian greatness, and that involves being able to take over a territory. It's the oldest way of looking at international relations that there ever has been. It goes back to empire building since time immemorial. Alexander the Great, Peter the Great, and Putin considers himself Putin the Great, and he's going to put this back together. So having a talk, and it's amazing to me that you have Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner one day talking to the Iranians, and then immediately switching over and, oh, we'll do Ukraine as well. You know, nations have ministries of external affairs, State Departments, foreign affairs, for a reason, and that is because there has to be some institutionalization of the search for peace, and that's the ultimate goal. But you can't deal with a President Putin as you would deal with a real estate developer. He's not interested just in aggrandizement monetarily. He wants to have control. He wants to have empire. And the language which he understands is not one of economic development. It's one of power politics. And until such time as the United States has partners and has a strategy which involves bringing pressure, what you see now is what you're going to get. While he's sending people to Geneva to talk with Witkoff and Kushner, at the same time he's continuing to bomb, to kill, and to maim. And so you have to be able to bring together a coalition which will bring pressure, real pressure, economically and militarily, in order to be able to solve the problem. So yes, it's great that there's talking going on, and hopefully the talks will continue and not let the war escalate into something which would be existential for both sides. But waging peace should be the paradigm which we're looking forward to. Unfortunately, we do not have a leader of the free world anymore. What we have is a transactional rather than a relationship approach. So we can only hope for the best, but Europe is showing that it's going to go its own way in trying to do this. But hopefully other great democracies like India, Japan, and in Western Europe can take up the slack which has been created by the abdication of leadership roles for peace by President Trump and his administration.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes I wish that someone from Trump administration would be hearing our conversation. Mr. Vikri, thank you very much for sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to France. 3 French departments have remained on high alerts for flooding, with towns in parts of west and the southwest submerged, as high water levels are expected to descend slowly. According to reports, the weather service, Meteo France, has maintained a red alert for flooding, its highest warning for the Lot at Garonne and Gironde, where Bordeaux is located, as well as for the Maine-et-Loire department around Angers. Earlier, two southwestern French departments, nearly 1,600 people have been evacuated after the Garonne River spilled over starting last week as storm Nils brought heavy precipitation. Now we move on to U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed his condolences on Truth Social following the passing of River and Jesse Jackson at the age of 84. President Trump remembered Jackson as a man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts, describing him as someone who truly loved people. He recalled providing office space for Jackson and his Rainbow Coalition for years, as well as helping him with initiatives like criminal justice reform and long-term funding for historically black colleges and universities. Trump has highlighted that despite being falsely accused of racism, he always found it a pleasure to assist Jackson. Jackson, a revered civil rights leader, Baptist minister, and two-time presidential candidate, played a pivotal role in the fight for racial justice. He founded Operation Push and the Rainbow Coalition and worked globally on peace efforts. His legacy of advocacy for marginalized communities will continue to inspire future generations. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.